Lawmakers and health officials asking the FDA to investigate the energy drink Prime.
Are you guys targeting children?
That's such a heavy claim.
Senator Chuck Schumer is calling on the FDA to investigate the energy drink Prime.
Do you remember when you couldn't walk into a store and actually find Prime on the shelf? Empty aisles, purchase limits taped to coolers, kids flexing bottles like they just pulled a rare Pokemon card. Just a couple of years ago, Prime wasn't just a drink, it was a status symbol. And right at the center of it all were Logan Paul and KSI, two creators who understood internet hype better than almost anyone alive. Back in 2022, the influencer economy was on fire. TikTok was running culture. YouTube beefs were turning into boxing matches, and audiences weren't just watching creators anymore, they were buying into them. So when Logan and KSI announced they were teaming up, nobody even asked what the product was supposed to be. They already knew it would sell. Prime launched as a hydration drink, but let's be real, that label barely mattered. This wasn't about electrolytes or recovery. This was about identity, neon colors, loud fonts, bottles that looked like Fortnite skins come to life. The packaging screamed TikTok energy. The bottle itself looked like a YouTube thumbnail you could hold, and that was absolutely on purpose. Instead of marketing Prime like a normal sports drink, they pushed it like merch. Limited, exclusive, hard to find, something you weren't supposed to get easily. Early drops vanished instantly. Restocks were teased through content. New flavors popped up and disappeared like seasonal skins in a game, and every single release caused the same reaction.
Logan Paul, the influencer turned businessman, is responding to accusations that his energy drink is unsafe for children.
If you've been on YouTube lately, you might have noticed kids freaking out over Prime.
Logan Paul, he's no stranger to controversy.
There's a new warning for parents and kids about energy drinks. Maybe you've seen Prime Energy on social media.
The drink is getting so much negative attention, schools are actually banning it.
It's just like the most sugary drink that doesn't have sugar in it. Then you look at the sodium level, it's like 1,000 milligrams.
Are you guys targeting children?
Panic buying. And the psychology behind it was simple. If everyone wants something and you can't have it, you want it more. Especially if you're young and every video on your feed is telling you this is what matters right now. Parents were driving across cities just to find one bottle. Kids were reselling Prime for $20, $30, even $50 each. Hydration turned into a flex, not because it tasted incredible, but because everyone else wanted it. Once something becomes a flex, logic leaves the building. Prime spread through schools fast. Some banned it outright, which only made it more desirable. Logan and KSI leaned straight into the chaos. They didn't slow things down, they doubled down. Sponsorships started stacking, UFC branding, Arsenal FC deals, Prime bottles popping up in locker rooms and arenas everywhere. At that point, Prime wasn't just influencer merch anymore, it crossed into full mainstream culture. News outlets covered it like a social phenomenon. Clips of kids fighting over bottles went viral. Shelves were wiped clean in minutes. From the outside, it looked like a billion-dollar brand was being born in real time. But here's what most people didn't stop to think about. The hype wasn't coming from product loyalty, it was coming from manufactured scarcity. Prime wasn't rare because demand was naturally unstoppable. It was rare because supply was tightly controlled. Limited drops created artificial urgency, and artificial urgency works until it doesn't. Eventually, supply always catches up. And when that happens, the illusion fades fast. But before that moment hit, Prime made a move that quietly planted the seeds for everything that went wrong. Next came Prime Energy. Same branding, same colors, same vibe, with one massive difference: 200 milligrams of caffeine per can. That's not hydration, that's rocket fuel. And this is where things started getting messy, because visually, Prime Energy looked almost identical to Prime Hydration. Same logo, same bottle shape, same shelf presence. People didn't care about the fine print, they just saw Prime. Suddenly, young teens were consuming caffeine levels meant for adults. School stepped in, parents panicked. Medical professionals started raising concerns. Logan responded by saying Prime Energy was for adults, which raised a pretty obvious question. If it's for adults, why does it look like something pulled straight from a toy aisle? This was Prime trying to play both sides at once, a hydration drink associated with youth culture, and an energy drink wrapped in the exact same aesthetic. That's when regulators, lawyers, and parents really started paying attention, because once hype crosses into health concerns, the conversation changes completely. Even then, Prime was still riding high. Shelves were filling up, but the brand still had momentum, at least on paper. Revenue numbers looked wild. Engagement was massive. Everything felt unstoppable. But Prime wasn't built on habit. It wasn't built on taste. It wasn't built on trust. It was built on momentum. And momentum always runs out. People just don't realize it until it's already gone. Once the shelves stayed full, once the novelty wore off, once TikTok moved on to the next obsession, all that was left was the business underneath.
We want you to give it a go.
We want you to give it a review.
Prime. Okay, so smells a bit high. What is that flavour you got there?
Tropical punch, it says.
Oh, Jesus.
Loosely. You've just come from the Maldives. How tropical
it's like swallowing perfume. What is that? I'll send it to Nigella to cook her pork ribs in. Well, so out of 10, what are you going to give Prime? Yeah, it's like the sort of dregs of a sort of Gina D'Acampo tiramisu. You know, the little runny bits at the end. What to give out of 10? 0.
That's when things really started to unravel. Lawsuits began stacking up. Sales didn't just slow, they dropped. A billion-dollar moment started turning into a legal nightmare. This is where the story stops being funny, because hype can hide problems for a long time, but it can't hide paper trails. Once Prime stopped being impossible to find, people finally started asking the questions they never cared about before. What's actually in this stuff? Who's making it? And what happens when the sales numbers don't match the promises? First, let's talk taste, because once Prime stopped being scarce, people actually drank it instead of flexing it. Outside of diehard fans, reviews were brutal. People compared it to perfume water, cough syrup, melted candy, and artificial sweetness mixed with chemicals. That matters more than people think. A real beverage brand survives on repeat buyers, not one-time hype purchases. If someone tries a drink once and never wants it again, that's not a brand. That's a moment. Taste alone didn't kill Prime, but it exposed the cracks fast. Behind the scenes, Prime had manufacturing deals based on one assumption: demand would keep exploding forever. Factories scaled up, suppliers locked into long-term contracts, warehouses filled to the ceiling. Then reality hit. One of the biggest blows came from Refresco, one of Prime's manufacturing partners. They sued Prime for around $67 million, claiming Prime promised massive order volumes, and then walked away once sales cooled off. That lawsuit alone was bigger than Prime's recent yearly profit. Then ingredient suppliers followed, accusing Prime of unpaid invoices. Millions more tied up in legal disputes over quality standards, pricing, and contracts signed during the hype phase that suddenly made no sense. And it didn't stop there. Parents began filing lawsuits after children experienced health symptoms allegedly linked to Prime energy consumption. Attorneys argued the branding made it too easy to confuse the energy drink with the hydration version. Same colors, same logo, same bottle, same shelf placement. Honestly, that argument isn't far-fetched at all. And once those cases entered the picture, Prime's foundation really started cracking. If you're 12 years old, you are not reading caffeine labels. You're reading vibes, colors, logos, hype. That's what matters. And that's exactly where Prime ran into trouble, because once Prime Energy entered the picture, the confusion was inevitable. Same branding, same shelf space, same look, and suddenly adults-only caffeine levels were wrapped in kid-coded aesthetics. On top of that, Prime got hit with claims involving PFAS, often called forever chemicals, allegedly found in certain flavors. Whether those cases hold up in court or not almost doesn't matter. Once a brand linked to youth culture gets connected to words like toxic and chemical exposure, parents don't wait around for verdicts. They just stop buying. Regulators started circling fast. Politicians sent letters. Schools banned Prime outright. And just like that, the brand that thrived inside hallways and lunchrooms became radioactive in the exact places it once dominated. But while the headlines were loud, something quieter and way more dangerous was happening behind the scenes.
Earlier this year, a weird string of rumors started floating around because someone sued us saying that Prime had forever chemicals, like more than you were supposed to drink in like a lifetime, whatever. I made a TikTok debunking it, but regardless, the rumor still got out there, and like low-key, the damage is done. And now, even though we're in this lawsuit, whether it's true or not, people think it. And so the lawsuit got dismissed. The plaintiff does have a chance to amend it, but she's chosen not to. She's coming back with one really weak-ass claim that's probably also going to get dismissed. But it's just like an example of people trying to get attention, make a quick buck on a frivolous lawsuit that actually has no merit or is based in nothing, and we're not going to settle. Oh, the caffeine one. where plaintiffs said there was like a crazy amount of caffeine, like that didn't meet what we said on our label in Prime Energy, which is 18 plus and has 200 milligrams of caffeine. That one also got dismissed.
Sales weren't just declining, they were stopping. In the UK, Prime's revenue dropped by roughly 70% year over year. Profits collapsed by over 90%. In the US, retailers started slashing prices just to clear shelves. 12 packs that once sold at premium prices were suddenly sitting on clearance racks collecting dust. Not because people hated Prime, but because they didn't care anymore. And that's the deadliest phase for any brand. Hate still means engagement. Indifference means the lights are going out. TikTok stopped pushing Prime clips. School flex culture moved on. The resale market evaporated overnight. What once looked like a movement now looked like leftover stock from last year's trend cycle. Meanwhile, all the long-term costs stayed locked in. Factory contracts, staffing, warehousing, distribution. This is what happens when you confuse virality with velocity. Viral demand spikes fast, but it doesn't tell you how long people are sticking around. Prime built expenses for a future that never arrived. And here's the wild part. Prime didn't technically fail in the traditional way. It didn't disappear. It wasn't banned nationwide. Regulators didn't shut it down. It bled slowly, publicly, and expensively. A drink that once sold out in minutes now struggles to move at all. A bottle that once felt exclusive now sits next to brands nobody asked for. And here's the truth people don't like hearing. This wasn't one bad decision. It was a system built entirely on hype instead of fundamentals. Prime didn't invent a new category. It didn't dominate taste. It didn't earn long-term trust. Momentum was the product, and momentum always runs out. So the real question isn't what killed Prime. The real question is whether this was inevitable from day one. Because Prime didn't fail due to lawsuits. It didn't fail because of caffeine. It didn't even fail because of taste. Prime failed because it broke the most important rule in branding. Prime never owned a category. That's the billion-dollar mistake hiding in plain sight. Look at every beverage empire that actually lasts. Red Bull didn't compete with Coke. It invented the energy drink category. Gatorade didn't fight soda. It owned sports performance and hydration. Liquid Death didn't battle bottled water. It built a personality-driven anti-plastic lane. Prime did the opposite. It walked straight into the most brutal beverage category on the planet and said, "We'll out-hype everyone." Sports drinks are already dominated by companies with decades of trust, science, distribution, and credibility. Prime didn't beat them on formulation, didn't beat them on price, didn't beat them on taste. It tried to beat them on attention. That works online. It does not work in grocery aisles forever. Attention is rented. Brand equity is owned. Prime's real product was never hydration. It was identity. People didn't buy Prime because it worked better. They bought it because it signaled something about who they were. That they were tapped into internet culture, YouTube drama, TikTok trends. That kind of branding is powerful and incredibly fragile. Identity shifts fast. The second Prime stopped being rare. It stopped being special. The second schools banned it. It stopped being rebellious. The second parents got worried. It stopped being acceptable. And when identity collapses, there's nothing left underneath. Prime couldn't pivot. It couldn't rebrand as a serious sports drink without losing its core audience. It couldn't lean younger without regulators stepping in. It couldn't lean older without being laughed out of the room. It was trapped between worlds. Too childish for athletes, too aggressive for parents, too generic for long-term loyalty. That's the danger of building a brand around personalities instead of principles. When hype fades, the product has to speak for itself. Prime never taught people why they needed it, only why they wanted it right now. That's why the collapse feels sudden, even though it wasn't. The moment shelves stayed full, the illusion shattered. People stopped fighting over bottles. TikTok moved on. And suddenly Prime had to survive on repeat buyers. Prime wasn't punished for being bad. It was punished for being temporary. And here's the part that hurts the most. This was avoidable. Separate hydration and energy completely. Tone down kid-coded branding for adult products. Invest in taste, formulation, and credibility early instead of assuming hype would last forever. But hype is addictive. When you sell out instantly, it feels unstoppable. When bottles get treated like collectibles, it feels permanent. When headlines say billion-dollar brand, it feels locked in. Business doesn't care how loud the moment was. It only cares how long it lasts. Right now, Prime still exists. You can still buy it. You'll still see sponsorships and logos. But culturally, it's already over. It went from flex to meme, from must-have to clearance, from status symbol to cautionary tale. And that's the real lesson here. You can build something massive on hype. You just can't keep it there. Prime didn't collapse overnight. It bled out as attention moved on. And this story matters because influencer brands aren't slowing down. More are coming than ever. Most of them are making the exact same mistake Prime did. Confusing virality with value. Confusing noise with trust. Confusing attention with fundamentals. Prime proves one thing clearly. You can out-hype the market for a while, but you can't outrun reality forever. So what do you think? Was Prime always a ticking time bomb built on hype and influencer ego? Or did Logan Paul and KSI fumble what could have been a real long-term brand? Was this just the internet moving on like it always does? Or were the warning signs there from day one? If you enjoyed this breakdown, like, subscribe, share, drop your comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one.